Hello, everyone. Welcome to Backyard Musings, broadcasting live. Uh, I'm in Pine Bluffs, Wyoming.
I'm in Mammoth Lakes, California.
So here we go. It's Steve and Scott.
Yeah,
I'm coming home from that emergency trip, and Scott took advantage to take a vacation.
yeah. Took my grandson fishing, and I will be home tomorrow.
Nice. Did you find any fish?
We found some yesterday. Today we didn't have any luck, but we came within about 10 feet of a deer and
Oh,
about 40 feet of a brown bear. So
oh, gee.
walked right down past us when we were fishing, and walked right up on another group. And I was trying to warn them, but they didn't hear me, so they were freaking out. I mean, and
Wow.
it grabbed a bag of their Doritos and was munching out. So so we
Throw
just
the food and run.
yeah, we decided to leave. So anyway, it's all good.
Okay, thanks for hanging in there with us. We know it was an emergency. We've been out of pocket for probably 10 days. I've been putting up some content here and there. Um, mostly about the truck, but some other things that have come up, like taking care of, like having your affairs in order when before you kick, before you
Right, that was a
die.
good one. I watched that one. That was
Yeah, yeah. So thought I'd put that up there. So we are back, and Phil, thank you very much for saying that you miss us, man. We really appreciate that. So here we go. I told you that I wanted to talk about Russia and how it looks like they're heading towards a civil war again. Right? They had one in 1905, and then they had the Bolshevik in 1917, and then Perestroika in 1989. So I read an article that said because of the Ukraine war, they could be moving towards this. So I decided to research it a little bit more. Who cares? Who cares if Russia has a civil war? Well,
well,
destabilization. Go ahead.
yeah.
Go ahead, Scott.
No, I was going to say that's something that we should definitely care about. I mean, look at some of the things that have happened just within the last 15 years, like Libya. We all thought, okay, let's overthrow Gaddafi. Well, look what kind of a mess that's turned into. Iraq. I mean, obviously you were there. You know what kind of mess that turned into.
The
So
devil you know or the devil you don't know. You know what I
it,
mean?
yeah, it's like do you want to who your enemies are, and sometimes it's better to have those enemies than to stir up the pot. So anyway,
So destabilization of Russia is not good for anyone, just like destabilization of the U.S. is not good for anyone. We're seeing destabilization here with this polarization. And if there's a civil war in Russia, they might cut off oil supplies, which means prices for oil will go up. And the only way to counter that is to produce more oil. And we don't produce energy. There's a war on energy with the Democrats in power. So
right, yeah,
we're going to suffer.
right now there is. I mean, 5-6 years ago we were in good shape, but yeah, right now it's not good. And could you imagine what that would do to
Yeah.
Europe? What that would do to Europe?
Oh yeah.
That would be.
That would plunge them into chaos.
Oh yeah,
And then Iran would just take advantage of it. The Saudis, OPEC, they'd take advantage of it.
yeah.
So we started seeing the markings of a civil war last year with Prigozhin and the Wagner group when they started to march on Moscow. Remember, the Prigozhin was a warlord, mercenary, and which Putin was leaning on to clean up house in Ukraine, and it was getting a lot more. The Ukrainians can fight. I fought with the Ukrainians in Iraq, and they are scrappers. They know how to scrap, and
And
so it didn't.
just so I'm clear, that guy was the guy that was kind of in charge of a. He was like his own little army, right?
Yeah,
Fighting a
yeah,
contract, like a contractor for the Russians.
contract guy, mercenary. Yeah,
Kind of turned on Putin, right? I mean, there was talk that he was heading towards Moscow. Same.
right. He was picking up his troops and moving to Moscow, and then he decided to back off because Putin threatened him, and then eventually they destroyed his aircraft
Yeah.
while he was waiting to take off, and then someone else took over, stepped up in the ranks, and now they're in Africa now, hiring out their beef to Africa, different areas of Africa. So and Putin actually publicly thanked the Russian military for destroying Prigozhin. I
Yeah.
mean, he thanked them.
What a
I
pig.
would probably too if I were a dictator.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I started to look at Russia's history to get an idea of the past in order to inform the future. So Russia had a civil war in 1905 and was considered by Lenin to be a dress rehearsal for the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917. That uprising was quashed. It was bef- almost before it started. Well, probably a couple months, maybe a year it lasted, but it was quashed. But they learned lessons, right? But that civil war was precipitated by a disastrous Sino-Russo war, Japanese-Russian war. Does that sound familiar? Disastrous war leads to overthrow, right? And there's a war going on in Ukraine right now. So these things, are shadows and types that repeat themselves.
Yeah. And I mean, I mean, as far as I know, Russia is being dominant in Ukraine, but Ukraine has hurt them.
Oh, yeah, we did a segment on how much they punished them, the
Right.
equipment
So,
was.
so yeah, it's taken a toll. So anyway, Russia did not have a warm weather port on the Pacific. Its only port on the Pacific was in Vladivostok, which is, I believe, yeah, it's considered like part of Siberia, right? I actually know somebody
Yeah.
who served a mission in Vladivostok. Yeah, it's kind of cool. So, and it's frozen in the winter months. So, Russia was leasing a warm weather port from China, which I didn't realize that. Starting back in the Qing Dynasty back in 1897. That's a good renter.
Yeah.
So, Japan surprise attacked that port and in 1904, and I mean, that's kind of crazy, right? That's
Sounds familiar? Pearl
Yeah,
Harbor?
exactly. Yeah, Pearl Harbor, exactly.
Yeah.
Because of their desires to expand their empire into Asia. Um, Russia suffered some major losses, ships and sailors, but Tsar Nicholas II thought that by hanging in there, Russia could win. And that then again, that's kind of like what's happening now, right?
That's what Putin's doing. He's
Yeah,
hanging in there.
yeah,
He
hanging in.
wants to save face, right?
Exactly, yeah. Losses mounted, and Nicholas II wanted to preserve Russian dignity. Russia's peasants were dying in this needless war. Sounds familiar again. 75,000 killed in action. Uh, Fast forward to today, and Russia has a similarly needless war with Ukraine, a territory commonly associated with Russia. It's like killing your cousins, right? I mean, these guys are,
Literally.
yeah, I mean,
Literally.
there's probably relatives on both sides. I mean, not to mention, I know that there's been some rumblings from some of the mothers and wives and stuff in
Yeah.
Russia that they're,
Yeah.
you
They
know,
don't want to send their boys to the meat grinder.
yeah. So more recently, Rob Stark beheading the leader of the Karstocks.
Car
Not very
Starks.
smart, right?
Yeah, so we got a graphic showing Rob Stark about to cut off the head of Lord Karstark.
Yeah.
So
What is up
so
with that?
fast forward to the Cold War in a time when Leonid Brezhnev rules in Russia, right?
Yeah.
Soviet Union, I should say. He ruled from 1964 until 1982. And we've got a graphic here of Leonid Brezhnev standing right next to uh, Putin. And I was just thinking, how am I going to get that graphic in? We're using StreamYard. I got to figure that out. So 9 years before the fall of the Soviet Union, right? During these last years, that's when he died. During these last years, there was another unpopular war in Afghanistan. That war started in 1979 and ended in 1989. Everybody remembers the Soviet-Afghanistan War. Remember Rambo? There was a movie about it, right?
Yeah. Well,
Russia
and they
only
pulled out.
suffered
I mean,
20.
they actually pulled out.
Yeah, they did pull out. Well, 1989, that perestroika, so it pretty much crippled because Gorbachev got it. I'm going to talk about it further. Gorbachev got into power and he was rooting out corruption and he decided, hey, let's get out of this war and take care of our own. So Russia suffered 25,000 killed in action and double that wounded. The loss of equipment was just as punishing as the Sino-Russo War. I mean, the Japanese punished them. They sunk a lot of ships and killed a lot of sailors. There were more killed in that 2000 or 1905 war than in this 1979 war. Corruption was so rampant under Brezhnev. His family members were on the take. That's how bad it was. His wife and children were on the take. Does that sound familiar?
Well, I was going to say that's kind of like where the oligarch stuff happened, right? I mean, everybody
Yeah,
wanted to get on the action. Um,
they wanted
yeah,
in on the action.
yeah, they wanted some of that pie. So
Yeah, so it was rampant under Brezhnev, and then that short-term successor, Yuri Andropov, which I remember the newspaper said Yuri Andropov because he died so quickly. He started an anti-corruption crackdown. Um, so Gorbachev, after Andropov left office, died, Gorbachev continued this crackdown as a basis for reform, perestroika. Does this sound familiar? Disastrous war leads to overthrow. Here
yeah,
we go again.
yeah. So now compare Putin and his regime and the happenings with Brezhnev. Putin has been in power since 1999, and even
Long time,
long
25
time
years.
before that, he was what, KGB, right?
Yeah,
So
KGB.
yeah,
25 years. And he spent an 8-year stint as a prime minister. So he had one of his lackeys as the president, and then he stepped back in as president for life. He's
yeah. Who
been
was
in
that
power.
guy? That was
Medvedev,
Medvedev. Yeah,
Dmitry Medvedev.
yeah. He's the guy that met with Obama, and Obama said, "Hey, just let's cool our jets until
Right. Just give me a
re-election."
little time.
Yeah, exactly. What a
Yeah.
what a bunch of sewer rats, man. Anyway, so Putin's been in power since 1999, longer than Brezhnev.
Yeah, longer.
Lots of equipment and personnel suffered from the Russian capture of Crimea and subsequent invasion of Ukraine is seen just as unpopular by the Russians, like we were saying earlier.
They're getting punished. I'm telling you. We should do an update segment, Scott, that shows how much aircraft, how many soldiers were and tanks and naval ships have been destroyed. I mean, they're getting punished, and they're using drones so effectively with like munitions, dynamite and stuff to blow tanks up, to blow people up. It is crazy.
Yeah, well, was it just last week? Just last week, they had Russia hit some kind of a hospital or a school or something. Maybe it was a hospital for kids. I don't know, but it was just awful, just
Yeah,
awful. So,
it is awful.
and it, as you're saying, that the parallels between the Sino-Russo War and the Soviet-Afghan War, both of which led to destabilization of Russia and eventual overthrow of the government.
So, how long can Putin continue this unpopular assault against Ukraine and keep his grip on the throne? This decade may see the end of Putin and the start of a new Russian regime. Now, it's probably not going to happen before our elections, but if it does, then like I said, that oil is going to get constricted, right? If there is a civil war that takes a while, 10 years to complete, um, it the only way for us to get out of it is to drill, baby, drill. That is the only way to be independent, self-sufficient.
Yeah, and again, you talk about destabilization. When we left all that armor in Afghanistan, right?
Yeah.
We didn't leave nukes there.
There were no nukes. Uh-oh, Scott went dark. Uh, that must mean he's got a phone call coming in on his cell phone. Okay. Scott, you there? Does Scott have a civil war? Mammoth Lakes?
I'm
There you
back,
go.
I guess. It
There you
happens
go,
every
buddy.
time I get a phone call. Every time I get a phone call, somebody calls me and I get
It's a phone call. Yeah. Okay. All right, folks. Well, we're back. We're broadcasting, and you'll see us at 1 o'clock every day, right around 1 o'clock or something like that. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining. Thank you so much for staying with us.
Yeah. Take care, everyone. Thank you.